China all the way over to Russia, all right? So you can just imagine the juggling. The themes are just as interesting. They're ranging from whole person education, whole person research, psychotherapy on transpersonal. We have the values for transformation and growth, and we also have narratives for resilience.
When I think about embodied wisdom, I think about the wisdom of the ancestors and the wisdom of those that came before us and who we were reared through, if you will, through that wonderful human experience and human relationships. And so then that provides us a baseline of knowledge and community and commonality, if you will, that is really the baseline for our social interactions, our professional interactions.
Well, I think my perspective on embodied wisdom is that, well, first off, there are lots of great sources of wisdom. You can look to spiritual traditions, you can look to philosophy, you could look to military science, whatever. But when you think about embodiment, we're talking about having the capacity to take that wisdom and put it into practice.
I had a whole different orientation towards stressful situations. My whole body was different. My ability to handle the situation, not that I've ever had to really hit anybody, but just that walking with that kind of confidence and that kind of just how I interact with the world has allowed me to build wisdom, not knowledge, but build wisdom, embodied wisdom, because you're physically open to it.
For example, in healthcare, it would be about embracing the whole person, embracing mind, spirit, and body. When practitioners are examining and diagnosing and ultimately treating a patient with an intervention and not seeing that patient as a fractured or in a fractured way or based on a symptom or a body part, if you will, but seeing that person as whole and complete, a whole and complete entity, if you will, not disconnected from society, but fully connected and embodied member of the community. And if we can kind of switch the way that we practice medicine and switch the way that we interact with people, members of society in that way, then we'll certainly be well on our way to embodying that. But, you know, there is a prerequisite, and that prerequisite is practice.
Happen neurologically, where there's that Pavlovian response that I had, but then, you know, for you, the exact opposite, right? Within the martial arts, that, you know, suddenly that Pavlovian response had somehow changed because of the embodiment training. And so this leads me to a fundamental critique of especially the first and part of the second generation of transpersonal psychology, when it was more east-west, you know, rather than east-west, north-south. And that prolonged ecstatic dancing was an aspect of healing. So now we're talking about the body. And that this component is there in different tribal traditions around the world to some degree or other, but a part of what was, this is like long known ways to work with PTSD thousands of years before it had a name, right? And yet, transpersonal psychology is both young and old, right? So it all, you know, and it's very dispersed. It's not a Jungian psychology where it's one person, right? It's a many peopled origin. And
you go back and you look at like ancient Chinese philosophy, and they have this concept of music really paralleling the spiritual element. And then they have maybe logic in terms of what we're talking about, the more the philosophical aspects, being man, being earth, being ground. I was so excited to read that and know that as far back as it's been documented in ancient Chinese philosophy, they had this concept of music being tied to spirituality, and that music's role was to, quote, I mean, literally, this is what the treatise said, but like harmonize the soul. So music being used to heal in all the ways that we're talking about, and maybe this is more of a, you know, using sound as an opportunity for this embodiment of spirituality, or an embodiment of tradition, history, culture.
While you're dreaming, go about doing a form of yoga where you're bringing Kundalini into your awareness in the lucid dreaming state. And the number one theme that came out of the people who successfully were able to do that practice was connection. So reconnection. And so it's essentially, identical. Whether you're connecting this way. Notice when I was speaking earlier, about these rituals in Africa, I didn't mention that, of course, the central component was music, right?
Rhythm, the drum beat.
Exactly.
Especially the drum beat, then we're back at heart rate. But I also want to give Josh an opportunity to say something here, to really diving deeper into peak experiences, transcendent experiences of this kind as a way to embody or ecstatic, right? So
anyway, I think that technology will continue to advance. It will continue to be an increasingly powerful tool for solving problems, and doing good, and potentially doing evil too, right? But I think that while that, we're on that trajectory, humans, we have not evolved in hundreds of thousands of years. And we need to do physical stuff. You need to connect with other humans. You need to be around other people and have physical contact with people. You need to be physically challenged and all these things. And so I think everybody has to find their own way to find something, some kind of embodied learning, some kind of a physical practice, some kind of a way to stay connected to their humanity as we continue to advance.
So there's this component of learning through the experience of pressure and fear. And Western esotericism, in the way that you're bringing it up, is often skewed towards people to some degree in leadership positions or law enforcement positions, political positions where, performance under pressure is really important. And so there are components within it around aspects of a form of somatic knowing, right? There's this, movement piece that you're talking about in different directions in different ways that have been shown in different areas of Western esotericism.
So when you think about balance, you can essentially be in what's called a stable balance state, an offset balance state, or dynamic balance state. And each one of those has its own specific attributes. And what defines which balance state you're in is the relationship between your base of support and your center of gravity, or center of mass. So if the person knows how to fall, you can do a beautiful fall or like a flip in the air to be able to protect your arm to get out of it. If you do not know how to fall, you can get very, very hurt, right? But if you do know how to fall, then you have a way out. And so what this allows, the kind of dynamic that this creates, one is, if you think of the spectrum of interactions in life, and it's almost like a ethical framework and a training system that you can use to kind of develop these attributes that then you can kind of turn into a whatever source of wisdom you want to draw from. It'll allow you to kind of embody that, I think, in a more effective way. Aikido is one where you definitely get a lot of insight into yourself and how you react to challenges, to conflict, to situations like that. And you can use, I guess, the training system as a tool for you to figure out like how you can take whatever kind of spiritual system you believe in and kind of like put it to the test a little bit, right? One of the founders of Sofia University was a Aikido person. If you are really interested in conflict resolution, go learn best-in-class conflict resolution strategies and tactics, and through the martial arts practice, you will learn how to put that stuff into practice because you'll be centered enough you'll have the emotional resiliency and the empathy to be able to take those concepts, those strategies and tactics, and put them into practice more effectively.